All right, let's kick off a new deep dive. We've got quite a stack of sources here. Basically, a collection of excerpts from some very well-known texts about Middle-earth.
That's right. Think of it like getting snapshots from a couple of, well, really epic stories. Our mission today is to unpack these passages.
Yeah, grab the most important bits.
Find the surprising details and, see what they tell us about journeys, the stuff people have to carry, and not just physical baggage either.
Right.
And how even really small things can end up shaping history.
Exactly. We aren't reading the whole books, obviously. We're looking at specific moments the sources give us. Some start kind of unexpectedly. Some drop us right into tense situations, and others, well, they feel like they're hinting at secrets or bigger things happening just off the page.
It's almost like finding a scattered box of photos from some truly wild trips.
And, well, some trips that definitely took a much heavier turn later on.
Okay, so let's dive into this first text. It throws us right into a scene that's already happening. Someone's getting ready for guests, expecting a wizard.
And then the doorbell rings again.
Yeah. The source says our host, a hobbit named Bilbo, he's expecting Gandalf, right? But this time it's not the wizard.
Nope.
It's a dwarf, Balin, who just kind of walks right in like he owns the place. And the text notes others must already be there because Balin spots a green hood hanging up Dwaylin's.
Right, so Bilbo's house is already filling up with these unexpected dwarves. And Balin arrives when they've hardly reached the third cake.
Ah, yes.
That detail tells you everything, doesn't it? About the start of this particular party.
Clearly, hobbit hospitality, especially when cake's involved, is being seriously tested right from the get-go.
And after these, well, unexpected guests finally leave, Bilbo wakes up late, and the state of his house is, wow, memorable.
The source calls it a fearful mess.
Piles of dishes, every pot used.
It forces him to face that the night wasn't just some dream, which apparently he'd kind of hoped it was.
Yeah.
But the interesting bit here is his reaction. Relief they're gone without him, but also this feeling of being a trifle disappointed.
At being left behind.
Yeah, and the text notes this feeling surprises even Bilbo himself.
That's a fascinating little flicker, isn't it? Amidst all the mess, there's this tiny spark of something else, a hint that maybe, just maybe, the quiet life wasn't quite cutting it anymore.
It suggests sometimes that impulse for adventure, it just starts as a weird feeling you can't quite pin down.
And looking at it critically, it's pretty clever character work. It sets up Bilbo's core conflict immediately, comfort versus the unknown, and it does it subtly, just through his reaction to a messy kitchen.
From the mess in the Shire, the sources just drop us straight into danger. We see an early adventure with trolls Bert, Tom, and William.
Right. And the text gives us really specific details of the fight. Thorin using a burning branch.
Bert getting smacked in the eye.
Bilbo trying to grab Tom's leg, described as thick as a tree trunk. Gets spun into the bushes, tears his clothes, loses buttons.
Tom loses a tooth in the process, and William apparently just sacks Thorin, literally puts him in a sack.
And then they're all captured, tied up in sacks. The sources describe the trolls arguing about how to cook them.
Oh, yeah. Mince and boil. Slow roast.
Or just sit on them until they pop.
It's a pretty undignified moment for our supposed heroes, really, all while Bilbo's hiding, totally scared, in a bush.
Yeah, that's a truly messed up start to an epic quest, isn't it? Your introduction to the wild is being discussed as dinner plans by three giant louts.
From that low point, the sources then shift, taking us deep into the mountains for a very different kind of encounter. With Gollum.
Ah, Gollum. His eyes are described like small green lamps.
Yeah, and Bilbo trips. Right, and Gollum just runs past him in the dark, cursing and whispering, doesn't even see him.
Which is confusing for Bilbo, because Gollum can see in the dark. So he cautiously follows, just hoping he'll lead the way out.
It's a total desperation move, really. He's completely lost.
And this leads to him hearing Gollum shriek, attracting goblins, yelling, "Thief, thief, thief! Baggins! We hates it, we hates it, we hates it forever."
Okay, let's cut the crap here. That moment, Gollum yelling Baggins. That's huge.
It is.
It links Bilbo directly to this creature and, crucially, to this ring thing that Gollum clearly cares a lot about.
It's maybe a bit lazy, writing-wise. The villain just happens to scream the hero's name. But, okay, it gets the job done.
Well, it establishes Gollum's obsession, right? And it brings in the goblins as this relentless threat. The text describes their tunnels as low and rough,
making Bilbo stumble.
But it clarifies that even the big goblins move fast by stooping low.
Ugh. That detail about the big goblins stooping low is pure nightmare fuel.
Totally.
You just picture them scuttling fast and unnatural. Anyway, Bilbo manages to escape, dodges guards, squeezes through a crack,
And loses more buttons.
this hobbit's wardrobe is taking a serious beating on this trip.
Buttons becoming this recurring casualty, it's almost funny, a subtle thread through the danger.
Yeah.
It highlights the physical, slightly absurd reality of being a small person in these huge, dangerous places.
So when Bilbo finally gets back to the dwarves, their whole perspective on him has clearly changed.
Oh, definitely. The source says they looked at him with quite a new respect.
And Gandalf says, Mr. Baggins has more about him than you guess, and gives Bilbo this queer look.
That queer look is everything, isn't it?
It is.
It makes Bilbo immediately wonder if Gandalf knows about the part he conveniently left out, Gollum finding the ring.
Yeah.
That single glance injects this whole layer of hidden knowledge and secret anxiety into their reunion.
It's a really smart writing move. Instead of some awkward confession scene, you feel the weight of the secret just through that look and Bilbo's internal panic. It tells you immediately this ring thing is a big deal and Bilbo's already not being entirely straight with them.
And the danger just keeps coming. We get this incredibly visual scene, goblins and wolves attacking the group while they're hiding up in trees.
Oh yeah, the goblins are practically throwing a party. Laughing, begging shields,
Putting out fires except one, piling fuel around the trees.
creating this ring of smoke and flame while they're dancing around. And the wolves are just waiting.
It's like some kind of, twisted forest rave signaling impending doom.
And just when things look totally, utterly screwed, rescue arrives.
The eagles. Swooping down, delivering passengers. The source mentions polite farewells between the eagles and Gandalf.
Right. And it notes the Lord of the Eagles became king of all birds later, got some gold, his chieftains got collars. Bilbo never saw them again until the Battle of Five Armies.
Which is a story for another time, apparently.
The eagles showing up, though, it feels a bit Deus ex machina, doesn't it?
A bit, yeah. Like, oh, look, conveniently giant flying plot devices.
Pretty much. But the source tries to ground it a tiny bit, mentioning the reward and the link to a future battle.
Still feels like a bit of a quick out from a really nasty spot.
From the heights, they move on to meeting Bjorn, a giant of a man who can turn into a bear.
And he's described as really interested in Gandalf's story. Nodding, growling.
Even striding around when he hears the exciting parts, like Bilbo reappearing or their scramble down that stone slide.
His reaction kind of validates their whole crazy story,
Yeah, but at his house, the rules are simple but super strict.
Go to sleep. Do not go outside until sunrise.
On your peril.
Right. That line's great. It implies real consequences for breaking that simple rule, adds tension even in a moment of supposed safety. Bilbo's simple bed, the moonlight through the smoke hole. It emphasizes this is temporary, cautious refuge.
When they leave Bjorn's, he gives them advice about Mirkwood. Take a little-known path north of the Carrick.
Warns about goblins south of the river and fast wargs,
He tells them north is the least expected route and they should hurry.
which highlights practical strategy, right? Sometimes the safest path is the one nobody thinks you'll take. Classic misdirection.
Approaching the forest river, they're debating how to cross. Bilbo thinks the boat isn't tied, just pulled up.
And Thorin sends Fili, youngest, best eyesight, to check it out.
Another small detail that ends up mattering. Bilbo's observation is key, and Thorin actually using his company's skills. Little moment of functional teamwork.
Inside Mirkwood, things go bad fast. Spider attack.
And again, it's Bilbo taking action. Uses stones to break webs, kills a spider with a whack dead, which causes chaos.
The spiders guess his directions, start throwing threads.
And Bilbo's tactic is just pure, unexpected hobbit genius. He leads them away and sings a song.
To infuriate them and signal the dwarves, he literally weaponizes annoyance.
Right. He pisses off a giant spider by singing at it. It's absurd and incredibly brave at the same time. It's not about swinging a big sword. It's using his voice, his wits.
Yeah, that's the literary takeaway here. The small character finds strength in unexpected ways, not through traditional heroism.
After that, the Gors get captured by wood elves. The source says they agree with Bilbo's message about treasure shares and trust him, just like Gandalf predicted.
It even suggests this trust is maybe why Gandalf left them. He knew they'd need Bilbo eventually.
Meanwhile, Bilbo feels hopeless without the wizard, feeling the weight of everyone depending on him.
It's a good callback. Gandalf's foresight is confirmed, but Bilbo's self-doubt is still very real. He's stepped up, sure, but he's still that timid hobbit underneath it all.
But the idea for the escape, that comes to Bilbo. The Water Gate, under the palace.
He figures out the whole layout, the water course, the portcullis that's often open, the tunnel to the cellars, the trapdoors in the roof.
And crucially, he notes the barrels of wine. The elves are fond of wine, brought from far away.
And that detail, the elves liking wine and having barrels, becomes the absolute key to the whole escape plan. It's a seemingly boring detail that becomes the pivot point. That's good plotting, planting that early.
Their arrival at Lake Town, Esgaroth, is classic Thorin. Makes this hugely dramatic announcement. I am Thorin, son of Thrain, son of Thror, king under the mountain. I return. The master of the town is surprised, naturally, but the elven raftmen, they recognize them immediately as escaped prisoners.
Oh, yeah. Calling them wandering vagabond dwarves, accusing them of molesting our people. So much for a hero's welcome. It immediately sets up the conflict. Dwarves see themselves as returning kings. Elves and lake men see them as escaped convicts causing trouble. Shows how status is all about perspective.
Waiting at the mountain, Bilbo's miserable. Can't sleep, feels like he's waiting for something, maybe Gandalf. He sees the sunset, Anunnun appear, then he hears it.
What?
A sharp crack behind him, an enormous thrush cracking a snail on a stone.
Okay, hold on. A thrush cracking a snail, why is that even in there? Seems completely random, utterly insignificant.
Exactly. But remember it, this is where that totally mundane detail becomes absolutely critical, because right after this, Smaug wakes up.
Smaug awakens. Rumbling, echoes, ground shaking. The dragon is still a massive threat. The source notes his encyclopedic knowledge of his wealth.
And how he was having an uneasy dream about a warrior, then woke up, smelled weird air, got suspicious about that small hole he'd forgotten about.
Sniffed around and discovered the missing cup.
This detail about the missing cup, one tiny item from his colossal hoard, is what truly sets him off.
His vulnerability isn't some mighty hero. It's his obsessive possessiveness and a tiny oversight. The small hole in the missing cup are the cracks in his supposedly impenetrable dragonness.
Bilbo faces Smaug, trembling, fighting this weird, unaccountable desire to just reveal himself that dragon spell danger.
Right.
But he pulls himself together, finds his courage, and speaks. Tells Smaug he doesn't know everything, that it wasn't just gold that brought them.
And Smaug, the arrogant asshat, just laughs. He's pleased there's other business, calls Bilbo Mr. Lucky Number, asks about us 14.
He totally underestimates Bilbo, right? Thinks he's just some burglar after loot, not realizing the actual stakes. Bilbo's courage here is quiet, internal, resisting the spell, finding his voice against this massive, terrifying power.
Back in Lake Town, after Smaug attacks, the master is just trying to save his own skin. People forget the whole new king idea real fast and get serially pissed off at the dwarves.
Yeah, accusing them of deliberately stirring Smaug up.
It's a perfect portrayal of mob mentality. Hero worship turns to blame the second things go wrong.
Bard calls them fools, thinks the dwarves are dead. But then he has a sudden thought about the fabled treasure lying without guard.
He thinks about rebuilding Dale, if he could but find the men.
Bard's motivation is crystal clear. The treasure is the key to restoring his people. This immediately sets up the conflict over the gold between the dwarves and the people. Smaug just devastated.
Then birds start bringing news. Thorin notices strange bird behavior starlings. Finches acting weird. Carrion birds gathering like a battle's coming.
And Bilbo spots that old thrush again.
The thrush cracking the snail. Here it is again.
Bilbo sees it. Thinks it must have escaped when Smaug smashed the mountainside.
And the thrush flies right to them, perches, sings, and cocks its head, listening.
It's listening to Bilbo. It understands him. This is the payoff for that totally random detail earlier. The thrush becomes the messenger, the link between the isolated mountain and the outside world. It's a bizarre plot point, maybe, but the sources commit to it.
A raven arrives next with key intel. Many died, Smaug wrecked the town, lake men want compensation and treasure. The raven advises Thorin to be wise. The dwarves are just a small remnant.
And the council is crucial. Don't trust the master, trust Bard.
Right. Bard shot the dragon. He's descended from the Lords of Dale. Grim but true. They want peace, the raven says, but it will cost gold.
This raven is basically the medieval fantasy equivalent of CNN breaking news. Delivers a full situation report and strategic advice, outlining the coming conflict over the treasure and identifying Bard as the key figure to deal with.
More ravens bring news. The Elven King diverted to the lake, which gives them breathing room. And 3 ponies escape near the running river where their supplies were left.
Fili and Kili get sent with a raven guide to fetch the ponies and stores.
See? Even 3 escaped ponies and basic supplies become vital assets when you're under siege. Little details making a difference.
4 days pass, the armies are coming. Hopes are higher, partly because they have food, mostly cram, which they're totally sick of.
But hey, it's food.
That detail about being tired of cram is great. It humanizes them, preparing for war, but also just really wanting a decent meal.
The gate is defended now. Thick stone wall, shooting holes, no entrance except by ladder or rope. They made an arch for the stream under the wall.
And turned the stream bed into a wide pool, forcing any approach onto a narrow ledge. They sent the ponies back riderless.
They've built a proper little fortress. Sending the ponies back really underlines their defensive posture they're digging in. No easy way out now.
This brings us to a huge moment for Bilbo. He's supposed to be on watch, talking to Bomber, who just wants to sleep and dream about the forest again.
Right. And Bilbo offers to take the first watch. But he has a completely different plan in mind.
His plan: put on the ring, fasten a rope, slip over the wall. He figures he has about 5 hours. It's a dark night. His path is strange.
And he stumbles crossing the stream under the wall, falls right in, alerting the elves who are searching for noise.
This secret act, leaving the mountain with the Arkenstone, is his ultimate choice. And it leads straight to this furious confrontation with Thorin,
who literally drops Bilbo onto the wall, yelling, "You all seem in league," and calls Bilbo a descendant of rats.
Ouch. Thorin is completely consumed by the dragon sickness at this point. Seeing enemies everywhere, it's a really low point for him, lashing out at the hobbit who saved them time and again.
Bilbo's reaction is perfect, though. Starts off mild, "Dear me, very uncomfortable," but then he really stands up for himself.
Reminds Thorin about his 14th share, asks if dwarves are politer in word than in deed, lists his past service.
And then, decisively, defends giving away the Arkenstone. "Take it that I have disposed of my share as I wished, and let it go at that."
This is Bilbo's transformation fully realized. The timid hobbit is gone. He's facing down a raging dwarf king, asserting his own principles. He chooses peace over wealth and Thorin's pride. Powerful character arc payoff.
The Battle of Five Armies is mentioned mostly in its aftermath. They were outnumbered, even with the eagles.
The sources highlight Bjorn's arrival. No one knew how or where he showed up. Bear shape.
Yeah.
Giant size in his fury.
His roar, like drums and guns, tossing enemies aside, breaks through the lines, carries out the speared Thorin.
And returns even angrier, crushing Bolg, the goblin leader.
Bjorn is another one of those convenient, powerful forces appearing when needed, yeah. But the description of his wrath is just so vivid. He's the ultimate wild card, turning the battle through sheer, untamed power.
The goblins scatter, get hunted down relentlessly into the river and marshes. Most perish. Songs say 3/4 of their northern warriors died. Mountains had peace.
Confirms the scale of the victory and its lasting impact. A major threat finally dealt with.
At the very end of Bilbo's adventure, he's ready to go home. Asked about seeing the eagles and Bjorn again.
Gandalf says, "As soon as you like," but days pass before he actually leaves.
Thorin is buried under the mountain.
Bard lays the Arkenstone on Thorin's breast, saying, "There, let it lie till the mountain falls." A powerful symbol, right? The treasure returned to its rightful place, resolving that conflict. And the Elven King lays Orcrist, the elvish sword, on the tomb. Said to gleam if foes approach, making the fortress safe. Dane becomes king, deals the treasure fairly.
Gives a 14th share to Bard to honor the agreement of the dead.
Establishes the new order. Dane as the just ruler, treasure distributed, alliances reaffirmed, mountains secured by magic and sacrifice. Fili and Kili died defending Thorin.
Bilbo's journey home includes a stop in Rivendell. Elves welcome them warmly with songs. Bilbo's quiet, drowsy, while Gandalf tells their story.
And he learns about parts he missed. This is how he finds out where Gandalf disappeared to.
Right, to a great council of white wizards who drove the necromancer out of southern Mirkwood.
And that's a key connection. Bilbo's seemingly isolated adventure is explicitly linked to a much larger struggle against a growing darkness, hinted at earlier. Gandalf wasn't just on a side quest. He was part of a coordinated effort against a major rising power.
Okay, that wraps up the first text, covering Bilbo's whole journey. Now let's turn to the second text. This feels like it's picking up threads from that story, but getting heavier.
Yeah, and the foreword gives us some really interesting insights into how this story came to be written.
What's fascinating is the author describes this tale growing as he told it, becoming the history of a great war of the ring, pulling in ancient history.
It started right after The Hobbit, but then the author stopped to work on his wider mythology, driven by language.
And initially had little hope anyone would be interested, right? Corrected that to no hope.
No hope. Pretty bleak. But reader requests for more Hobbit stuff apparently pulled him back in.
In the story itself, he says, was drawn irresistibly toward that older world. It became an account of that world's end before its beginning or middle were even fully written.
So the narrative just took over, basically. Pulled in those glimpses from the Hobbit Elrond, Gondolin, elves, orcs, Durin, Moria, Gandalf, the Necromancer, and that one specific ring.
Revealing their deeper significance, how they all connect to the culmination in the War of the Ring.
This is where the literary criticism angle is interesting. The author's telling you his process was one of discovery, not rigid outlining. The story dictated where it needed to go. It wasn't fully planned, it emerged.
And the writing process took forever, 1936 to 1949, interrupted by his job teaching World War II.
By late 39, it wasn't even through book one. He plodded on mostly by night, and incredibly, he was halted at Balin's tomb in Moria for a long while, almost a year.
A whole year stuck on that one grim scene we just talked about gives you a sense of how tough these passages were, how much they meant to him. It wasn't easy. It was a struggle.
The foreword also gives us some Hobbit history. The stores near the Anduin River, less shy of men. Falahides, fewer of them, northerly, friendly with elves, better at language and song, like hunting.
Recognizing these different strains of hobbits is key. The Falahides were bolder, more adventurous, often leaders like the Tooks, the masters of Buckland.
So Bilbo and Frodo, even as Bagginses, might seem ordinary, but there's that Tookish Falahide adventurousness lurking in their family tree.
They moved west into Eriador, found men and elves there, including the dwindling Dúnedain, the kings from over the sea. This left room for hobbit communities to settle.
Early settlements vanished, except for Bree and Chetwood, about 40 miles east of the Shire.
Provides historical context for places like Bree, explaining why hobbits ended up there and how they interacted with the remnants of those old kingdoms of men.
Hobbits learned letters from the Dúnedain, who learned from elves, forgot their old languages, spoke common speech, Westron.
But kept their own words and names for things.
Shows cultural assimilation, but also keeping their own identity. Adopted the common tongue, but kept their unique flavor.
Legend supposedly becomes history in 1601 of the Third Age, when Falahide brothers Marcho and Blanco got permission from the king at Fornost to cross the Baranduin River and settle the Shire.
That's the specific founding date, grounding the Hobbit's home in the documented history of the wider world.
The foreword also touches on Rivendell history briefly. Elrond's sons stayed after he left. Celeborn lived there after Galadriel left.
And crucially, it says that with Celeborn's eventual departure, the last living memory of the elder days in Middle-earth finally passed away. It injects this real sense of history fading, an ancient era truly ending.
Okay, let's jump into Book 1, Chapter 1. Picking up not long after The Hobbit, starting with Bilbo's 111th birthday party, Special Magnificence.
Bilbo's famous in the Shire now, rich, peculiar, a local wonder for 60 years since he vanished and came back.
His wealth is legendary. People think he's got treasure tunnels under Bag End, but what really freaks people out is his prolonged youthfulness. At 90, he looked 50. At 99, basically unchanged.
And some folks were genuinely pissed off about this.
Yeah. Isn't natural, they grumbled, and trouble will come of it.
That's the Shire community right there, immediately distrusting anything outside the norm, anything they don't get. It's fear of change, fear of the unknown, presented as gossip, but loaded with foreshadowing.
Despite the weirdness, Bilbo's generous, popular mostly, except for the Sackville Bagginses, and found close friends in his younger cousins, especially Frodo.
Bilbo adopted Frodo as his heir at 99, brought him to Bag End, totally screwing over the Sackville Baggins' plans. They share a birthday, September 22nd.
And Bilbo's reason is classic Hobbit. So we can celebrate our birthday parties comfortably together.
It's such a simple domestic reason, but it masks this hugely significant act, transferring his home, his inheritance, to Frodo, passing the torch, basically, over tea and cake.
And at the party, Bilbo makes his dramatic exit, just slipping away quietly. Gandalf watches him go, says softly, "Goodbye, my dear Bilbo, until our next meeting."
Frodo finds Gandalf, confirms Bilbo's gone. He thought it was a joke at first, but knew Bilbo planned it. Gandalf assures Frodo he'll be all right now.
And he leaves Frodo a packet. The will, documents making him master of Bag End, and he mentions finding a golden ring.
Frodo's reaction is instant. The ring! He asks why Bilbo left it, thinking, it may be useful. Oh, that line, it may be useful. Poor, naive sod.
Gandalf's warning is chilling. It may, and it may not. I should not make use of it if I were you, but keep it secret and keep it safe.
And there it is. The seemingly innocent magic ring from Bilbo's adventure immediately becomes this heavy secret, a potential danger. The burden passes right there from Bilbo to Frodo. Gandalf's keep it secret and keep it safe is the core instruction that sets everything else off.
Frodo handles the rest of the party duties while rumors fly. Tells people it'll all be cleared up in the morning, carriages leave, gardeners clear the mess.
The mundane cleanup after the huge, momentous event. Classic contrast.
Leaving the Shire, the sources take them to Crickhollow, described as a comfortable, welcoming house. Frodo, even though he knows he has to leave soon, wishes he could just settle down there. Feels bad for his friends who think this is their new home.
It's delightful. I hardly feel that I have moved at all, he says. Really underscores his deep longing for stability, for home, even as his path is pulling him away.
And there's that wonderful moment of just comfort.
Yeah.
Merry leading them to the bathroom, a puff of steam, Pippin yelling, "A bath! Oh, blessed Meriadoc!"
The detail of Merry setting up 3 tubs of hot water, the hobbits singing competing bat songs, including Bilbo's favorite, comparing hot water to beer. It's a beautiful, small slice of comfort and joy in a story that's getting steadily darker. Reminds you what they're fighting for, you know?
But that comfort is really short-lived. The narrative shifts into seriously unsettling territory with Old Man Willow and the Barrow Downs.
Old Man Willow tells them now is the time for resting, and to ignore nightly noises, fear no Grey Willow.
They fall asleep easily, but the dreams are completely messed up. Frodo's is particularly vivid. Young moon, black rock wall, a gate, a plain, a tower.
A man on top, fell voices, howling wolves, a shadowy winged creature, an eagle rescue, and galloping hoofs, black riders.
He wakes up with the sound of hoofs echoing, terrified, wondering if he'll ever be safe again. Pippin's dream is just as bad.
Wakes up, or thinks he does, hears branches fretting, twig fingers scraping, feels trapped inside the willow, listening to a horrible, dry, creaking voice laughing.
These aren't just bad dreams. They're projections of the active evil forces out there. The Black Riders are confirmed, and the willow isn't just a tree, it's something ancient and sinister.
This escalates massively on the Barrow Downs. Frodo feels paralyzed, turned to stone, as an arm from the Barrow-White gropes towards Sam and his sword.
And he has that terrifying thought. Use the ring. Escape. Let the White miss him. Run free, grieve, but be alive. He even thinks Gandalf would understand.
But his courage, which the source calls too strong, stops him. He physically fights himself, reaches for the ring, but ultimately grabs his sword.
He hacks at the White's arm. It breaks off, but his sword just splinters.
The White shrieks, light vanishes, there's a snarling noise. Frodo falls over Merry, whose face is cold. In this totally desperate, messed up moment, he remembers Tom Bombadil and the rhyme.
Starts calling out, "Ho, Tom Bombadil!" Small, desperate voice at first, then it grows strong, echoes.
This scene is peak literary analysis fuel. Frodo's internal conflict is raw, the ring's temptation for self-preservation versus loyalty and courage. The choice is hard. He literally fights himself not to use it.
And the resolution. Not some mighty blow, but a simple rhyme learned from a weird, jolly guy. Its anticlimax as rescue, leaning into the unexpected power of the seemingly weak or silly.
After Bombadil rescues them, the hobbits are amazed. Find themselves in white rags, crowned and belted with pale gold, jingling trinkets.
Merry touches a circlet and has this sudden flashback. Remembers, the men of Carn Dûm came on us. The spear in my heart. Clutches his chest, denies it, realizes it was a dream.
Great detail. It implies the Barrow-Wights are linked to ancient enemies of the North Kingdom, specifically the men of Carn Dûm who served the Witch King. Connects the immediate threat to deep, forgotten history.
Sam's reaction is classic Sam. Dressed up like this, where are my clothes?
Tom just laughs, tells him he won't find them, says they've escaped out of the deep water, and clothes are nothing compared to drowning, tells them to run naked on the grass while he goes hunting.
Tom is completely unfazed by the darkness they just faced. His focus is entirely on the present, on life, on finding yourself again. A very different philosophy to the weight the hobbits are already feeling.
As they leave, Tom turns north. Tells them not to trust his guess about being pursued, because out east my knowledge fails. Tom is not master of riders from the Black Land far beyond his country.
Crucial limitation. Tom's powerful, yes, but only within his borders. The forces from the east, from Mordor, are beyond his reach. Tells you the real danger lies where Tom's power ends.
As they rejoin the road, heading into strange lands, leaving Shire legends behind, they feel this deep loneliness and sense of loss in the twilight, longing for home.
It's that emotional core of the hero's journey departure, isn't it? Leaving the known, stepping into the unknown, feeling the weight of it.
Their journey takes them to Bree, the Prancing Pony Inn. Talk of the landlord, Mr. Butterbur. We know they meet Strider here, though that reveal might not be in these specific bits.
Mr. Butterbur, bless him, gets scared when Frodo warns him about danger. Ask what the black men are after, where they're from.
Frodo, exhausted and worried, can't really explain fully, just says they come from...
And Strider steps in to finish. They come from Mordor, if that means anything to you.
Butterbur's reaction, save us. He knows the name. It's the worst news that has come to Bree in my time.
But even terrified, he agrees to help. More than ever, he says, only faltering when thinking who he's helping against.
Strider finishes again, against the shadow in the east, tells Butterbur to let Mr. Underhill stay and forget the name Baggins.
This exchange perfectly shows the pervasive fear of Sauron and Mordor.
Yeah.
Just the name terrifies people. It also shows Strider taking charge, identifying the enemy, ensuring Frodo's immediate safety by hiding his identity. Every little bit helps, like Strider says.
In their room, they're discussing plans meeting Gandalf at Weathertop. Strider admits he doesn't know where Gandalf is.
He was with him in the spring, watching the Shire borders while Gandalf was busy elsewhere.
Last saw him May 1st. Gandalf said Frodo's business went well. He'd leave for Rivendell late September. Strider went his own way, but news obviously reached Gandalf, and Strider wasn't there to help.
Strider's troubled. For the first time since I have known him. There should have been messages. He got back days ago, heard the bad news. Gandalf missing, horseman seen.
Elves told him Frodo left home but had no news after Buckland. Strider's been anxiously watching the East Road ever since.
This backstory justifies Strider's presence and his anxiety, confirms Gandalf's disappearance is directly tied to the Black Riders and the ring moving. Strider's worry really highlights how serious whatever happened to Gandalf must be.
Frodo asks if the Black Riders are connected to Gandalf's absence. Strider says nothing else could have stopped him except the enemy himself.
Oof.
But he quickly adds, do not give up hope. Says Gandalf is greater than Shire folk realize. This mission is his greatest task.
Strider's reassuring Frodo, but also subtly revealing the true scale here. Only Sauron could stop Gandalf, and the hidden power of the wizard they just thought made fireworks.
Just as Pippin is yawning, about to crash, Merry bursts in, totally out of breath, gasping, I have seen them, Frodo! I have seen them! Black Riders!
Frodo asks where. Merry says, here, in the village.
Bam! The threat isn't vague or distant anymore. It's right outside the inn door. Sudden, dramatic, raises the stakes instantly.
The sources then jump us way ahead their arrival in Rivendell. The Hall of Fire is described, Brayfire, carved pillars, usually quiet for thought.
Gandalf tells Frodo he'll hear songs and tales here if he can stay awake. It's a place of ancient lore, learning, peace, a sanctuary after all the chaos and fear.
Elrond enters, minstrels play, the hall fills. Frodo sees this small, dark figure on a stool near the fire. Wonders if he's ill. Head sunk, cloak over his face.
Deliberately mysterious, almost hidden. Draws your attention because it's small and unassuming in this grand elvish hall.
Elrond stands beside him, says, awake, little master. Turns to Frodo, beckons, now at last the hour has come that you have wished for. Here is a friend that you have long missed.
The reveal is powerful. The figure raises his head, uncovers his face.
And Frodo recognizes him. Bilbo! Springs forward. Bilbo greets him. Hello, Frodo, my lad, so you have got here at last.
A really heartwarming reunion after so much danger and separation. But the conversation turns heavy fast. Bilbo knew Frodo was coming. Gandalf and the Dunedain, Strider told him.
Bilbo's surprised the ring caused so much trouble, even thought of going back to Hobbiton for it himself.
But Gandalf and Elrond wouldn't let him. Feared the enemy was looking for him, would make mincemeat of him tottering about in the wild.
Gandalf's comment to Bilbo is a sharp reminder. The ring is passed on, Bilbo. It would do no good to you or to others if you tried to meddle with it again.
Tells us the ring's influence is still active, still dangerous, even for Bilbo, who seemed to handle it okay. He seems to accept it, but his next question shows he's still hooked.
He asks Frodo in a whisper, have you got it here? He's curious, wants to peep at it.
Frodo feels this strange reluctance, but shows him.
The ring looks the same, but when Bilbo reaches for it, Frodo pulls back sharply. To his distress and amazement, the text says he no longer sees Bilbo.
He sees a shadow seem to have fallen, sees a little wrinkled creature with a hungry face and bony groping hands. He feels the urge to strike him.
It's horrifying. Frodo sees the Gollum-like potential in Bilbo, the potential for the ring to twist him into something monstrous. Shows the ring's corrupting power so explicitly, aimed at someone Frodo loves.
The music and singing in the hall actually stop. Silence falls. Bilbo looks at Frodo's face. passes a hand over his eyes, says, I understand now. He apologizes for Frodo's burden. Sorry about everything.
Don't adventures ever have an end? Bilbo asks. I suppose not. Someone else always has to carry on the story.
That's key. Bilbo recognizes his story didn't end, it just passed to Frodo. Sees their individual quests as part of a larger, ongoing narrative thread against darkness, a bit of a metafictional nod within the story itself.
He then asks for real news about the Shire. Frodo hides the ring, the shadow passes.
The shift back to mundane Hobbit news is like a release valve after that incredibly intense moment. Shows Bilbo trying to ground himself after confronting the ring's lasting hold.
Later in Rivendell, we get part of Bilbo's Song of Arendelle. The lyrics describe Arendelle sailing on his ship Vingulut with a Silmaril.
Journeying over western seas, seeing Tirion and Valinor, coming to Elvenhome, learning songs, getting harps, clothed in white, sent with lights.
Passed to a hidden land, came to timeless halls, saw the Elder King, heard forbidden words unheard, saw forbidden visions showed. A new ship built for him, Mithril, elven glass bearing the Silmaril as a lantern and banner.
This song is a deep dive into the ancient mythology, the Elder Days. Connects this story to a vast cosmic history. Legendary figures, powerful artifacts like the Silmaril, Mithril, journeys between worlds. Gives a sense of the immense backdrop.
Provides scale and context, reminds you the stakes are tied to millennia of history and conflict, not just the current crisis.
The sources then jump south again. An attempt to cross Caradhras Mountain. Described as cruel, ill name, doesn't like those not allied with Sauron.
Gandalf says it doesn't matter who the enemy is if they can't beat the attack. Pippin's miserable. The path is just a trough. No shelter from snow or stones.
Sam's classic dry wit. If this is shelter, then one wall and no roof make a house. They huddle by a cliff, hoping for cover, but wind and snow blast them.
Bill the pony is actually sheltering them, but the snow's so deep it would bury the hobbits without the bigger folk. Frodo feels sleepy, sinks into a dream.
Dreams of fire on his toes, hears Bilbo criticizing his diary entry about the snowstorm. No need to come back to report that.
Frodo tries to answer, but I wanted rest and sleep, Bilbo. Wakes painfully as Boromir pulls him out of a snowdrift.
That dream pulls Frodo back to the comfort of Bag End, contrasting sharply with the harsh reality of the mountain. Shows the physical and mental toll, reducing him to just wanting sleep.
Retreating from Caradhras, Gandalf silent, staff down. Wolves howl, startling Bill. Boromir, clearly pissed off, throws a stone into the dark pool near the mountain base.
And this seemingly tiny act, throwing a stone, has immediate consequences. A soft slap, then a swish and a bubble, and great rippling rings move towards the cliff.
Frodo reacts viscerally. Why did you do that, Boromir? I hate this place, afraid of the pool. Don't disturb it.
Merry wants to leave. Pippin asks why Gandalf doesn't hurry. Gandalf's head bowed despair thought. Wolves howl again. Ripples get closer.
The pool is instantly established as something ancient, malevolent, maybe intelligent, or something in it is. Frodo's fear feels intuitive. Boromir's impatience triggered something bad.
Suddenly, Gandalf springs up, laughing. I have it, of course. Absurdly simple, like most riddles when you see the answer. Stands before the rock face, says clearly, melon.
A star appears briefly, fades. A hidden doorway appears, opens inwards. Everyone's amazed. Gandalf admits he was wrong, Gimli too. Merry was on the right track.
The opening word was right there on the arch. Say friend and enter. Melon is Elvish for friend.
Quite simple. Too simple for a learned lore master in these suspicious days. Great moment of Gandalf's self-deprecation.
And a clever riddle. The solution isn't complex. It's about trust, friendship, something complex thinkers overlook. Brilliant in its simplicity.
Entering Moria, Gimli sings about Durin's Hall's Mirror. Sam likes the song but feels it makes the darkness heavier. Asks about gold and jewels.
Gimli's silent. Gandalf explains orcs plundered the upper halls, nothing left. No one dares go deeper. It's drowned in water or in a shadow of fear.
Sam asks why dwarves return then. Gandalf's answer. For Mithril.
Moria's real wealth was Mithril. Worth 10 times gold, now priceless. Little left above ground. Orcs don't delve for it.
And then the grim history. Mithril was their wealth and their destruction. They delved too greedily and too deep and disturbed that from which they fled, Durin's bane. Orcs gathered nearly all of it as tribute for Sauron, who covets it.
That's the deep backstory of Moria. Not just bad luck. Their own greed unleashed Durin's bane. Mithril, this amazing material, root of their downfall, also desired by the enemy.
Inside Moria, they wake up, realize it's morning, high on the east side. Should find the Great Gates today. Gimli's ready to leave. Moria feels dark, dreadful, no sign of his kin. Doubts Balin even made it here.
They decide to push on, rest better outside. Follow a glimmer of light to a doorway, leads to a large square chamber. Dimly lit, dusty, stumble on things. Light from a shaft shows a patch of blue sky.
The light falls on a stone table in the middle. Frodo's intuition is immediate. It looked like a tomb.
And Gandalf confirms it, reading the runes. Balin, son of Fundin, Lord of Moria.
Frodo's simple line, "He is dead then. I feared it was so." Gimli casts his hood over his face. This is that moment the author got stuck on for almost a year. The grim payoff to Balin's expedition. Disaster confirmed.
They stand silent by the tomb. Frodo thinks of Bilbo and Balin's friendship, Balin's visit seeming like ages ago. Look for clues about Balin's fate.
Find bones by the doors, broken weapons including crooked orc scimitars, broken, plundered chests.
And beside a shattered chest lid, remains of a book. Slashed, stabbed, burned, stained black, dark marks like blood. Gandalf lifts it carefully, leaves crackle.
He pores over it, identifies it as a record of the fortunes of Balin's folk. Started about 30 years ago. Top page marked 1-3, 2 pages missing.
Gandalf reads excerpts. Driving out orcs, slaying many. Flúi killed, but slew the great first. Buried near Mirror, taking the 21st hall. Illegible bits, a shaft mentioned. Then Balin has set up his seat in the Chamber of Miserable.
Gimli confirms it, the Chamber of Records. I guess that is where we know. This blood-stained, broken book is the only witness to their last stand. Tells a story of initial success, then a grim end. Leaves details vague, terrifying. Fantastic use of a found document.
From Moria's depths, the sources jump to a debate before Amon Hen. Aragorn's original plan with Gandalf. Go with Boromir to Gondor. Believed dreams called him there as Elendil's heir.
But after Gandalf fell, the burden of Gandalf had been laid on him. Felt responsible for the company. Knew he couldn't abandon the ring if Frodo wouldn't go with Boromir. Questions what help they could give Frodo, walk blindly with him into the darkness.
Boromir states he'll go to Minas Tirith, duty-bound. Speaks softly, arguing with himself, eyes on Frodo. If Frodo wants only to destroy the ring, weapons are useless, Minas Tirith can't help.
But if the goal is to destroy Sauron's might, then it's folly to go into his land without force and folly to throw away. Pauses, realizing he's thinking aloud, frames it as throwing lives away. A choice between defending a strong place and walking into death.
Frodo notices something new and strange in Boromir's look. Sees his real thought was different from his final words. Folly to throw away what? Was he thinking of the ring itself? He'd accepted Elrond's correction, but the temptation is clearly eating at him.
This is the ring's corruption working subtly. Twisting Boromir's noble intentions, defending Gondor into covetousness using the ring. The sources show this through his internal debate and Frodo's sharp observation. It's insidious.
The debate ends unresolved. Merry and Pippin asleep, Sam nodding, the moment of choice and temptation left hanging.
Going back slightly, the sources mention gifts before leaving Lorien. Food and clothing from the elves. The food includes very thin cakes, light brown outside, cream inside.
Gimli looks doubtful, mutters, cram, breaks off a corner.
Cram again. They were sick of it at the mountain gate. Here it is again, elvish style. Small callback, but links the two journeys. The ultimate symbol of travel food you get really sick of.
They face an attack on the river, likely the Anduin. A great winged creature, blacker than the pits in the night, speeds towards them, blotting out light. Fierce voices yell across the water.
Frodo feels a sudden chill, a deadly cold like the memory of an old wound in his shoulder. Crouches down.
Direct link back to the Nazgul attack on Weathertop. Frodo's physical reaction immediately tells you this creature is tied to the ring wraiths, but maybe something different.
Legolas shoots an arrow from his Lorien bow. The winged shape swerves, harsh scream falls into gloom on the east shore. Sky clears, distant wailing voices follow.
Legolas' skill highlighted, but what was it? Gimli praises the shot, compares the shadow to the Balrog. Frodo says it was not a Balrog, something colder. Refuses to name it, just says its fall dismayed their enemies.
Aragorn agrees, but notes they don't know where enemies are now or what they'll do. Urges vigilance.
This exchange creates immediate tension, mystery. Creature defeated, but nature unclear. Linked to Nazgul and felt colder than a Balrog. Introduces a new, terrifying type of enemy without fully revealing it.
After Boromir's implied death at Amon Hen, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli hunt Merry and Pippin. Snippets of 3 laments for Boromir. Man's Song, Rohan's West Wind. Boromir rode over streams into shadows north.
Legolas' song, South Wind from the Sea, asks news of Boromir the Fair. Many bones by the sea, many went down Anduin.
Aragorn's song, North Wind from Gate of Kings. Beneath Eminhan heard cry, fought many foes, shield cloven, sword broken, laid to rest, borne by Roro's falls.
Beautiful, multi-part elegy, each from a different perspective. His people, elf companion, hunt leader, confirms his heroic last stand, tragic end. Gimli refuses to sing of the east wind. Aragorn agrees. Minas Tirith endures it, doesn't ask it for news.
The hunt for Merry and Pippin continues. Legolas is clearly pissed off about the merry young folk driven like cattle. They push hard, 12 leagues covered, little rest.
Reach a hard choice. Rest or go on. Legolas says go on. Enemies won't rest by night. Gimli argues they can't follow a trail in the dark.
Aragorn says he could guess, but risks losing the trail if orcs turned. Gimli worries they might miss signs if a prisoner escaped or was taken east towards Mordor. Aragorn thinks signs show White Hand orcs prevailed, heading for Isengard.
Gimli finds it rash to be sure, pointing out they miss signs leading to Merry's brooch in the dark. Legolas notes orcs are on guard, prisoners weary. No escape unless they contrive it.
This whole sequence lays out the brutal reality of the chase. Difficult decisions, tracking limits, exhaustion. Mention of Merry's brooch confirms small items can be crucial clues. Speculation about escape hints at the hobbit's own resourcefulness.
Perspective shifts dramatically again. Merry and Pippin with Treebeard, bathing in a basin. Treebeard arrives, humming, singing, brooming good morning. Notes they slept long while he took many 100 strides.
Gives them drinks from a different jar, earthier, richer, sustaining. They drink while nibbling elf cake, clearly secondary to the magic Ent drink. Treebeard hums, looks at the sky.
Pippin asks, where is Entmoot? Treebeard explains it's a gathering, not a place. Doesn't happen often, but he got a fair number to come to Durndingle, south of here.
Set off, Treebeard carrying them. Stride south through deep groves, massive trees. Feel that sense of stifling, first noticed in Fangorn.
Treebeard hums deeply. Hear answers, sometimes hum. Quiver from earth, boughs, tree trunks. Shows the deep, slow communication Ents have with the forest. Completely different pace of life.
Entmoot continues. Wade in Durndingle bowl, walk the rim, drink from glittering fountain. Feel remote, outside their world, far from everything, longing for companions.
Treebeard comes with another Ent. Says don't be impatient. Finish stage 1, explaining facts. Still need to explain to distant Ents, decide what to do. Deciding is quicker, but still be there a couple of days, very likely.
Brings Briggalad, quick beam, made up his mind, doesn't need to stay. Treebeard calls him the nearest thing among us to a hasty Ent.
Quick beam being hasty by Ent standards is hilarious. Highlights just how incredibly slow, deliberate Ents are compared to everyone else. His personality defined by relative speed in a culture of ancient slowness.
Perspective shifts again, likely post-Helm's Deep. Gandalf meeting Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli. Aragorn recounts his story, including the hunt.
Gandalf notes Aragorn hasn't told all he knows guesses. Sighs for Boromir, sore trial, glad he escaped in the end. Notes Galadriel warned him.
Spade's hobbits came not in vain, if only for Boromir's sake. But main part was being brought to Fangorn, coming like falling of small stones that starts an avalanche. Here's first rumblings now. Says Saruman had best not be caught away from home when the dam bursts.
Big reveal of the Hobbit's strategic importance beyond the ring. Accidentally ending up in Fangorn, telling Treebeard their story, triggers the Ents' attack on Isengard. Small stones, huge avalanche, ties individual actions to world-changing event.
Aragorn calls Gandalf riddling. Gandalf laughs, says just talking aloud to myself, choosing the wisest person present to speak to.
Classic Gandalf wit. Respects Aragorn by calling him wise, but teases him about needing explanations.
Gandalf gives a piece of my mind as plain as possible. Enemy nose ring abroad, born by hobbit, knows company makeup, benade not clear purpose. Thinks they went to Minas Tirith. What he would do.
Sauron's biggest blind spot. Cannot conceive they tried to destroy the ring or not seek to take his place. His great fear is a mighty one. Wielding ring will appear to challenge him.
That is their good fortune and hope. Because Sauron thinks only of war and power, he let loose war, believing he has no sentence unfinished.
Central insight from Gandalf. Sauron's nature is his weakness. So focused on power, domination, can't imagine self-sacrifice or the Hobbit's true mission. Inability to understand destroying the ring gives them their only chance. Brilliant strategic analysis, simply delivered.
Journey continues towards Isengard after Helm's Deep. Sources describe Hornburg fortifications, valley layout. Scout reports wolf riders, orcs, wild men hurrying south to Helm's Deep. Found Rohan folk slain, scattered companies. Erkenbrand likely dead.
Theoden asks about Gandalf. Scout saw old man in white on horse like wind, heading to Isengard before nightfall. Some thought Saruman. Wormtongue seen going north earlier with orcs.
Theoden notes it'll go ill for Wormtongue if Gandalf meets him. Despite huge enemy host, Theoden decides for Helm's Gate. as Gandalf advised.
Sets scene for Battle of Helm's Deep. Not detailed here, but implied. Shows Rohan's dire situation overwhelming enemy, Theoden following Gandalf's counsel despite odds.
Rides swiftly towards Isengard gates beside dry Isen riverbed. Midnight halt, weary, reach dark vale of Nan Curanir, moon-hidden. Vast spire smoke vapor rises, catches faint moon rays.
Aragorn asks Gandalf, all the Wizard's Vale was burning. Jomer says always fumes, but never like this. Steams rather than smokes. Thinks Saruman's brewing devilry, maybe boiling the Isen.
Gandalf says maybe learn tomorrow. Camp by dry riverbed. Late night, watchmen cry out. Darkness, blacker than the night, creeps over ground, northward either side of river.
Gandalf warns stay. No weapons, just wait. Mist gathers, walls of impenetrable gloom create narrow lane between moving towers of shadow. Hear whispering, groaning, rustling sigh. Earth shakes. Sit afraid until darkness passes.
Far south at Hornburg, midnight. Men hear great. Sentence unfinished.
Fantastic horror moment. Source doesn't explain what this darkness is. Sounds, shaking earth, moving gloom walls, pure dread. Clearly Saruman's doing something terrible unleashed before abandoning Isengard. Ties into Ent attack explanation later.
Arrive at Isengard. Misty, pools of water. Gandalf halts them. Beyond mist, pale sunlight. See doors of Isengard hurled, twisted, stone-shattered dust, ruin like great sea wrath.
Ring wall filled with steaming water, bubbling cauldron with wreckage. Twisted pillars rise from flood. Only Orthanc stands, dark, tall, untouched, water-lapping feet.
King, company silent, marveling at Saruman's overthrown power. Don't know how? Look at rubble near ruined gates. See two small figures lying there at ease. Gray-clad, hard to see. Bottles, bowls, platters just eaten.
One asleep. Other leans against rock, sending long wisps and little rings of thin blue smoke from mouth.
Theoden, Yomer, men stare in wonder, strangest sight. Before king speaks, smoked breather sees them, springs up. Looks like young man, but half-man height, brown curling hair. Sentence unfinished.
Brilliant reveal. After all the terror, epic ruin, two hobbits casually lounging, smoking pipes on Saruman's rubble. Incredibly funny, shocking. Ultimate mic drop for the little guys.
One hobbit, Merry or Pippin, recounts Ent attack to Gandalf. Describes horns tree-like, groping trees, have voices, speak with Ents. Became queer and wild, dangerous, terrified of them without true Ents.
Crept down ravine into upper valley at night, Ents wrestling horns behind. Couldn't see horns, air full of creaking, move fast like rushing wind.
Not long after midnight, tall wood around Isengard north side, no enemies, challenge, light from tower window. Then, tremendous stir, trumpets blared, walls echoed, thought discovered, but Saruman's people marching away, emptied Isengard.
Saruman sent entire army to finish Rohan at Helm's Deep. Left Isengard empty, vulnerable to Ents. Major tactical blunder driven by arrogance.
Hobbits saw enemy go, endless orcs, wolf riders, men battalions, many torches, saw faces most ordinary, grim but not evil, but some horrible, man-high, but with goblin faces, sallow, leering, squint-eyed.
And crucially notes these half-orcs reminded him at once of that southerner at Bree.
Aragorn agrees later. Fought many of these half-orcs at Helm's Deep. Seems plain the southerner was a sentence unfinished.
Payoff. Mysterious, creepy southerner in Bree wasn't random. One of Saruman's spies, a half-orc, ties early encounter all the way to Saruman's army, his corrupted forces. Minor character detail from Book I becomes crucial.
They then meet Saruman at Orthanc, at the rail, looking down. Old man, cloak, color changing, long face, high forehead, deep eyes, hard to fathom, now grave, benevolent, wary. White hair beard, black strands.
Gimli's observation. Like and yet unlike. Saruman looks wise, but something's off.
Saruman speaks softly. Knows Gandalf too well for help. Addresses Theoden as Lord of Rohan, worthy son of Thangol. Asks why he didn't come before his friend. Claims wanted to see him, especially lately, save him from unwise and evil counsels.
Claims not too late, despite injuries from Rohan, he'd still save them, deliver from ruin that draws nigh inevitably, if they follow his path. Claims he alone can aid now.
Theoden silent, looks at Saruman, then Gandalf, silent as stone. Riders murmur approval of Saruman's words, then silent, spellbound. Seeing Saruman spoke fair and fittingly compared to Gandalf's rough and proud ways.
Shadow creeps over hearts, fear of danger. Think of Rohan's end, Gandalf driving them to ruin, Saruman offering escape, holding it half open so that a ray of light came through.
Masterclass in manipulation. Saruman uses voice, reputation to break alliance, prey on fears, present himself as only savior, twists reality, makes Gandalf seem proud, himself benevolent.
But Gimli, blunt, practical dwarf, breaks the spell. Growls, grips axe. The words of this wizard stand on their heads. In the language of Orthanc, help means ruin, and saving means slaying. That is plain. But we do not come here to beg.
Gimli's no-nonsense assessment is perfect. See through Saruman's bullshit immediately, calls out hypocrisy, refuses to be swayed, cuts straight to truth of Saruman's corrupted intent.
The Palantir becomes a problem at night camp near Isengard. Pippin takes the globe from sleeping Gandalf, gleams in moonlight, draws his eyes. Inside seems on fire, spinning lights.
Lights go out. Pippin gasps, rigid, lips moving. Strangled cry falls back, rigid, unseeing.
Cry alerts everyone. Gandalf reacts immediately. So this is the thief. Cloaks globe, kneels by Pippin, face drawn, haggard. The devilry, what mischief has he done to himself and to all of us?
Direct consequence of Pippin's unchecked curiosity. Palantir isn't just pretty, it's dangerous. Gandalf knows immediately something terrible happened.
Gandalf brings Pippin back. Pippin, bewildered, shrinks from Gandalf, cries, "It is not for you, Saruman!" Tries to pass message. "I will send for it at once. Do you understand? Say just that."
Chilling. Pippin, through Palantir, interrogated by Sauron. Sauron thinks Pippin is Saruman's captive, wants Palantir back. Pippin unwittingly gave Sauron info, drew his eye.
Gandalf demands what he saw, said. Pippin, shivering, eventually speaks low. "I saw a dark sky and tall battlements." Mentions tower.
Confirms it. Pippin spoke to Sauron, showed him his realm, tower, in Mordor. Sauron's attention now directly on them, specifically the Palantir they have. Huge, dangerous mistake from small hobbit's curiosity.
Shifting gears, find Frodo, Sam on journey, likely Icalian with Gollum. See men marching to Mordor, Gollum describes them. Dark faces, fierce.
Describes appearance. Black eyes, long black hair, gold rings in ears, some with red paint on cheeks. Notes they remind his Smeagol of that southerner in breed too.
Explicitly connects Haradrim, men from south serving Sauron, to that early mysterious figure in Bree. Confirm his reach of Sauron's influence, army gathering forces from distant lands.
Faramir, with men, ambushes, fights Haradrim. After fight, speaks to Frodo, Sam, judging them, guessing halflings, seeing something strange, elvish about Frodo.
Faramir is wise, perceptive, doesn't jump to conclusions, feels heavy responsibility, life forfeit if chooses wrong about them, won't decide hastily, must move.
Orders men, tells Frodo, Sam, blindfolded Gollum they come with him to secret place 10 miles away, orc spies haven't found. Rest there, decide morning.
Faramir, established as noble, cautious leader, unlike Boromir, offers refuge, time to deliberate, prioritizes wisdom over immediate action.
Gollum resists blindfolding. Frodo asks for all three blindfolded. Done. Led from cave. Henethanoon. Outside, cool air, walk up down, uncovered under boughs, no waterfall noise, slope overlooking vales.
Blindfolding Gollum, then asking for hobbits too, sign of Frodo's compassion, protectiveness towards Gollum, despite reservations.
Faramir gives final counsel. Don't go east yet. Go straight south, woodland cover, keep near western edge, can walk daylight initially, land dreams in a false peace, evil withdrawn temporarily.
Bids farewell, embrace, kiss foreheads, go with the goodwill of all good men, leaves swiftly, vanishing almost in twinkling of an eye.
Forest feels empty after he's gone, as if a dream had passed. Frodo sighs, turns south. Gollum complains about nasty, wicked men, neck hurts. Frodo begins to speak. Sentence unfinished.
Encounter with Faramir is crucial. Represents best of men in Gondor wise, compassionate, noble, resists ring lore, unlike Brother Boromir, doesn't demand ring, provides aid, guidance, allows Frodo to continue mission, moment of unexpected grace, alliance.
Frodo tries to change subjects from earlier lack of frankness with Faramir, asks about Gondor cities, hope in war.
Faramir responds grimly. It is long since we had any hope. Believes Elendil's sword might help, but only postpones doom unless other help unlooked for also comes. Sees Gondor as failing people, a springless autumn, decreasing while enemy increases.
Talks about Gondor's decay. Men of Númenor fell into folly, internal fighting conquered by wild men. Gondor caused own decay, fell into dotage, thought enemy asleep.
Hungered after endless life unchanging. Valued tombs over houses, ancestry over sons. Childless lords, withered men with elixirs, towers asking stars' last king no heir.
Stewards, however, wiser. Recruited strength, peace with Northmen. Cirion aided Rohan, destroyed enemies. Faramir's father, 26th steward.
This long explanation from Faramir is a literary device. Deep dive into Gondor's history, present decay, insight. Kingdom crumbled from within pride, idleness, fear of death, clinging to past as much as external enemies. Obsessed with appearances, lineage while strength withered, sharp critique of stagnation via historical detail.
Finally, Faramir reiterates he stopped earlier talk, nearing matters, better not debated openly. Turned to Boromir instead of Isildur's bane. Notes Frodo were not wholly frank with him.
Confirms Faramir's suspected truth about Ring, Isildur's bane, Frodo's burden. His decision not to force issue, take Ring, despite understanding power, duty, emphasizes unique wisdom, nobility compared to Boromir, saw something more important than the weapon.
So there you have it. A massive journey through these sources. From a hobbit's disrupted tea time, to confronting a dragon, escaping goblins, spiders, terrifying white, finding hidden doors, navigating ancient ruined kingdoms, dealing with treacherous wizards, magic viewing stones, meeting creepy half-orcs, noble captains, getting glimpses of deep history, cosmic struggles all revealed through these specific excerpts.
We've seen how seemingly disconnected details, a thrush and snail, missing cup, hobbit song, specific rhyme, preference for wine barrels, small stumble, type of cake, remark about dark-faced men, single stone in pool, look in eyes, forgotten hole, stained book, drop brooch, specific insult, descendant of rats, smoke rings can be crucial threads in a complex narrative tapestry.
Highlights that courage, resourcefulness pop up unexpectedly, not just with big heroes. Shows immense weight of burdens like ring, leadership, how seemingly small choices, chance events have huge consequences. Hints at fate versus individual action.
If you pull back, look at the whole picture from just these excerpts. Consider the contrast. Vast scale of history. Elder days, kings of men, ancient realms, mighty wizards, Sauron's rise versus the critical impact of little folk, minor events. How much is driven by grand, epic forces? How much tipped by unexpected actions, inner struggles, simple courage of individuals seemingly out of their depth?
Yeah. How much of the biggest stories are actually shaped by the smallest people and the moments everyone else overlooks? Something to chew on.